Welcome back to Golf Extra. Tied up in all of the intricacies of the bombshell agreement between LIV Golf and the PGA Tour is the fact that, above all things, any merger that occurs has to be legal under U.S. law. Such a high-profile agreement will no doubt fall under the watchful eye of the U.S. government, and this particular agreement already has. Due to review by the Department of Justice, the two parties have even already removed a pretty important piece of the agreement. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Now, let's get right into what the U.S. Department of Justice did to change the LIV PGA merger agreement. The PGA Tour decided to merge with LIV Golf for a number of reasons. If you're willing to listen to the people in charge of the organizations, there's one story. Take Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, for example. Under heavy scrutiny after the agreement was announced, Monahan was forced to defend the reasoning behind the decision to merge with the very entity that he and the PGA Tour had been in conflict with, saying, "We cannot compete with a foreign government with unlimited money. This was the time. We waited to be in the strongest position possible to get this deal in place." So, from Monahan's perspective, it seems to be about money. However, the PGA Tour itself pushed back on this statement in one of their own, saying, to characterize that this agreement was made due to litigation cost and other use of reserves is an oversimplification. With the end of the fractured landscape in the world of men's professional golf, the PGA Tour has never been a more valuable property. The Public Investment Fund, PIF, has recognized that value and the opportunity for return on investment with their investment in the tour. Additionally, this transaction will make professional golf more competitive with other professional sports and sports leagues. Okay, so if you listen to the people in charge of the PGA Tour, things are a bit different. The PGA Tour offered an opportunity for LIV to capitalize on their investment in professional golf. But in the subtext below those carefully crafted PR statements, there's another story to be told. First, remember that the main headlines in the news about the agreement during the chaotic summer of 2022 were about the big-name players who decided to jettison the PGA Tour in favor of big money deals from LIV Golf. This included players like Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, who then no longer played on the PGA Tour, potentially drawing fan interest away from the industry mainstay. On the other hand, there were many well-known golfers who stayed on the PGA Tour, including stars like Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler. Given the reduction in players announcing moves to LIV Golf in recent months, it may seem like LIV's poaching of PGA players was coming to an end. As it turns out, though, LIV was far from done pursuing top talent in professional golf and even had a big-name player on their radar. According to Golf Channel and ESPN Plus host Matt Adams, there was apparently a PGA Tour player who was in advanced discussions to join LIV Golf prior to the merger. This player was also recently ranked #1 in the world and is a multiple major champion. Don't worry, we'll save you the detective work. There's only one player who fits that category, Jon Rahm. There's no doubt that the PGA Tour would have been desperate to avoid losing Rahm, who's one of the game's biggest draws and arguably the top player in the world over the last year, alongside Scheffler. As a result, this potential poaching and its continued practice by LIV may have very well contributed to the speed at which the PGA Tour and LIV reached a deal on the agreement. Because of this pervasive poaching problem, the PGA Tour decided to include a so-called anti-poaching provision in the agreement with LIV that was announced in early June, meant to put an end to the movement of players from one tour to the other. The provision read, "From the date of this agreement, subject to paragraph 10 hereof, PIF, PGA Tour, and DP World Tour each agrees that it will not and will cause its affiliates, including LIV, but not including for these purposes the Asian Tour of the MENA Tour to the extent PIF does not control these entities, and other representatives on its behalf not to, directly or indirectly, enter into any contract, agreement, or understanding with, solicit, or recruit any players who are members of the other's tour or organization to become members of their respective organizations or any other golf league, or to participate in golf events hosted by any other golf league, or to terminate their membership with LIV, the PGA Tour, or the DP World Tour as applicable." Section of agreement that was removed. While the statements that were put out at the time of the announcement seemed to indicate that things were pretty well settled between the two parties, the agreement in fact was not yet final. To that end, at recent congressional hearings, PGA Tour Board member Jimmy Dunn said, "The framework agreement, although critical for ending the litigation, is very limited in scope. This has been widely misreported, and I think we at the Tour clearly did not do a good enough job explaining that limited scope so that it was understood by fans, players, the media, and Congress. The rollout was very misleading and inaccurate, which was everyone's fault. There is no merger, there is no deal, there is simply an agreement to get to an agreement and settle the agreements." In addition, the PGA Tour Board put out a statement saying that if future negotiations lead to a proposed agreement, it would need approval by the Tour's policy board, which includes player directors. In the meantime, we are all committed to the safeguards in the framework agreement that ensure the PGA Tour would lead and maintain control of this new potential commercial entity. Since the agreement is still just a framework, then, it is liable to be changed. And the United States Department of Justice decided to take a look at the legality of the agreement. The anti-poaching provision immediately caught their attention, and they in turn raised their concerns to the PGA Tour and LIV that the provision may not be legal under United States law, which attempts to prevent antitrust business practices. According to the New York Times, the decision was an early casualty of an antitrust review by Justice Department regulators who are expected to decide in the coming months whether to try and block the transaction. So, it appears that the agreement could still be blocked by the Department of Justice. But removing problematic clauses like the non-poaching provision is one way that the two parties can prevent any kind of issue from derailing their plans. The PGA Tour responded in a statement which read, "The framework agreement sets the stage for an exciting future for professional golf that reestablishes competition at the highest levels of the sport and creates the biggest stage for everyone, players, sponsors, and fans. Based on discussions with staff at the Department of Justice, we chose to remove specific language from the framework agreement. While we believe the language is lawful, we also consider it unnecessary in the spirit of cooperation and because all parties are negotiating in good faith." William E. Kovacic, a former Free Trade Commission chairman, was interviewed by the New York Times in reference to the deal and said that the clause in question was right in the field of vision that the Department of Justice has staked out for its no poaching enforcement program. They haven't had a great deal of success in their criminal cases yet, but they have said, as a matter of policy, we regard no poaching agreements as being a serious offense worthy of criminal prosecution. Another lawyer, Gerald Mottman Jr. from the Duane Morris law firm, said the clause was an example of something that the Department of Justice would look at and say, is what occurred promoting competition? Or is what occurred stifling competition insofar as an entity with a monopoly grip on the market has eliminated a competitor and solidified their grip on the market? That's a question, among others, that the Department of Justice and other involved entities will have to continue to evaluate as time goes by and the deal comes closer to fruition. So, what do you think about the clause that the Justice Department made LIV and PGA remove from the merger agreement? Do you think that there were going to be other players moving over to LIV Golf if there hadn't been a merger agreement? Be sure to leave us a comment with what you think down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you can watch our latest content updates as soon as they drop. We'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.